You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
So welcome everybody, Gail Kraft here with the Empowering Process podcast. And with me today is a dear friend of mine, and this is Scott Elliott. Scott Elliott is the owner of a gym called Kool Body, and that's Kool Body. And he'll talk to you a little bit about that near the end, but he's an amazing man. And he is here to talk with us a bit about taking a leap of faith. He's been doing this personal trainer business for about a decade now. And his mission is to unlock the self-potential of his clients all over the world, because of course he's online, who isn't these days, using the tools and exercise and nutrition and mindset. His system is to create workouts based on your body type and motivated by you figuring out what your why is. And it's a unique approach. And I know, Scott, I was absolutely not interested in training until I met you. So, Scott, welcome.
Gail, I am very excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to share the message and to get some transformation happening to all the people that are listening to this. So let's get started.
So Scott comes from Texas. I met him about 8 years ago in beautiful San Diego. And he was really pushing his business at that time as a trainer, and had only been a few years in San Diego, and went from a lush 6-figure business, career, shall we say, not business, in Texas to a barely making it when you started out in, of all places, one of the most expensive places in the country to live, San Diego. But I'd like to ask you, Scott, this leap of faith that you took, what's the process? What was the pain that you were feeling that you decided to shed the money and follow your dream? And how did you find your dream?
Oh, man, Gail, that is a very powerful question. There's I don't know the right word to say it. I guess there comes a point in time where your soul needs to be fulfilled. And as an engineer making 6 figures, I was living a very comfortable life. At the time, it was me, there was a girlfriend there. Life was very simple. However, on the inside, I was not being fulfilled at all. And because of that level of unfulfillment, I was becoming my own worst enemy. I was becoming very passive aggressive with every aspect of my life, with the girlfriend, with my job, with my parents, with my brothers and sisters, just very passive aggressive, because there was something inside of me that was not comfortable. And I was reflecting that amongst all of my other, around my circle of influence, if you will. And I knew that there had to be something that needed to change. And just the thought of what my future was going to be like in the next 5 years, 10 years, doing the same thing as an engineer, just didn't settle really well with me. So it had me go into a deep question of, what would I want to do? What's my big why? Where do I want to go with all this? If I were to snap my fingers and do something and money didn't matter, what would that one thing be? And as simple, as harmless as asking myself that question, it led me down a rabbit hole that ended up becoming what I do now for a living.
Well, that's interesting, Scott, because I will tell you, many people don't ask that question until later in life. Mm-hmm. I know for me, I was on a survival mode, even though I did very well in corporate America. Like you, I was making 6 figures, right? I got to play, I got to have fun, I had a nice house, I had a nice car. But there was no meaning in my life. And for me, my marriage fell apart because I wasn't happy. I went out and lived on my own. And actually, it's when I came out to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I brought the misery with me. So for me, and I'm going to ask you what your kick in the pants was. Mine was I got my ass fired in San Diego. Now, guys, I've been on the board of directors of some pretty powerful companies. I've worked for the big guys, and to be fired, my attitude was, who do you think you are? Right. But it put me on the path of, I'm not working for a corporate again.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? And I had a few, I did some consulting, doing this, a consulting, doing that, and I tripped into coaching.
Yeah.
And realized that was my dream. So what are some of the pain points that you went through? Because you don't just say, oh, I'm not happy. What's my goal? Oh, there it is. No.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you went through?
I was burning every bridge in my world. I mean, there was not a healthy relationship.
Nope.
If it was a girlfriend, I was so passive aggressive, as I mentioned earlier, and it was always her fault. Remember, it was always her fault. And then when the next one came, it was their fault. And I started to see the same thing happening with my mom and my dad. I saw the same thing happen with the coworkers at my work, and it was always their fault. It was never my fault. And then one of my dear close friends, I burned that bridge too. There was something that happened. It was something so silly, and I was ready and willing to just sever the ties of a friendship that I've had for over 10 years just because of something so dumb. And at the end of the day, here I am on my own little island, still living a life that was very unfulfilling.
But you were right.
But I was right. Why doesn't anyone else see what I see? And that was the breaking point for me, Gail, is I was left with absolutely nothing and no guarantees.
And so how did you discover that you wanted to be a personal trainer? What was that journey like?
Well,
and what did your family say?
Your questions are very good. Very, very good. I love them, Gail. But before I answer how I came to be a personal trainer, I'd say this, that friendship of 10 plus years that I without hesitation severed. There was a period of time, I'm going to say it was probably about 2 or 3 months of not talking to this friend of mine. Well, you know what? He came back. He came back around and he called me. He goes, hey, Scott, you know what? Let that be the past. You're my friend. And I want to call and say, hi, how are you? Let's talk about this. And I sat down, swallowed my ego for the first time in many, many years, and had just a very genuine conversation with what he's up to and all that good stuff. He told me what he was up to, and he was up to bigger and better things. He was climbing the ladder of his life, becoming a better person, and I wanted that.
Yeah.
He said something that I wanted that. It wasn't the car, it wasn't the house, it wasn't the job or the money, it was the life. He goes, this is what my life is like. This is what I'm doing about living life. And I wanted that. And that's what had me ask the question, what is something that would really be fulfilling to me? And the answer was always under my nose the whole time for all these years. What is something that I would love to do? Well, I have a passion for health and fitness. I wanted to be that guy that always took the extra step of eating healthy, just living a healthy life. I loved it when people would come to me and say, hey, your physique looks this way, or I see that you're eating this way. Can you tell me more? I love answering those questions. I love being that guy that people approach to in regards to that. Mm-hmm. And, it didn't have to be a career. I'm not saying to your audience, hey, quit your job.
No.
I'm saying you need to acknowledge your passions, because those passions were given to you from a bigger source. You were built with those passions, and you are lying to yourself if you don't take action on those passions. That's your gift to the world. And so when I saw that in me, I was like, okay, to whatever degree, to whatever extent, I am going to become more of a voice in the world of health and fitness. That's when I decided to pursue personal training. Not as a career at that point, though, by the way, just as a
Right.
hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so you used to compete, and then at one point you decided you were going to leave Texas.
Mhm.
Why? And build your career in expensive but beautiful San Diego.
Yeah. So, yeah, Gail, well, as you know, I was the master of burning bridges. And so I guess I don't know, call it being an Aries. I'm like all in. And so I was an engineer working in San Antonio at the time. And I was just at a meeting with the owners that flew in from Chicago, the owners that flew in from my company. There was a lot of big wigs at that table, and the meeting was not going very well at all. And I stepped outside just to catch some fresh air, and my phone rang. My Nextel, if you remember those phones.
Mhm.
And I picked it up, and it was a recruiter, a job recruiter. And he goes, "Mr. Elliott, would you like more money? Because let me tell you, the career that you're in as an engineer, there's jobs everywhere. I can get you more money wherever you want. Do you want to stay in San Antonio? Do you want to go to Dallas? Do you want to go to Houston? I got jobs listed all over the place, but definitely more money. What do you say?" And I said to him, or I said to myself, you know what? In my mind, if I'm going to make a move, I definitely, I don't know. I want to become a personal trainer. I think that's when I made up my mind, Gail.
Yeah.
When this job recruiter who was trying to recruit me for another engineering job with more money, when he called, I told myself, you know what? If I'm going to make a move, I want to be a personal trainer in Southern California, because that is to be a personal trainer in Southern California, the mecca of fitness in this country at the time. That's what I'm going to do. So I told him, I was like, hey, I know that you're looking for engineers, but maybe you can find me an engineering job in San Diego, California. I randomly threw that out there, Gail. Just a random shot in the dark. I was like, San Diego, California. And in my mind, I was like, if this guy can pull this off as show me an engineering job in Southern California, then something is trying to tell me something. Well, Gail, he goes, are you being serious? And I go, 100%. If you can't find me a job in San Diego, California, then I don't want to talk to you. And he goes, no, 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 no. That's so funny that you say San Diego, because he says, I'm from San Diego. I literally moved to Texas from San Diego last week. I was working in the recruiting office. Let me connect you to that office and we'll get you all set up. And I just swallowed my heart all the way down.
Be careful what you ask
I
for.
was like, what did I just do? And so sure enough, the next day, the recruiter from San Diego calls and he goes, hey, I hear that you want to move to San Diego. And I go, yeah, I do. And he goes, well, we got 2 jobs lined up for you. When can you fly out? And I said, you know what? This is happening.
Yep.
This is happening. I put the wheels in motion. Obviously, this is the direction I want to be. My game plan was to go to California, try out the engineering thing in there for a little bit, maybe get my roots soaked into the ground and then become a personal trainer. So long story short, 2 months later, I was living in San Diego, Gail.
Yeah.
And when I gave my 2-week notice to my current boss, he pulled out his checkbook and he says, Scott, you're doing really well for our company. How much would it take you to keep you? How much do you want? And mind you, money was no object to this guy. He ran a very, very large business.
Yeah.
I could throw any number out there on the table,
And he would have met it.
and he would have met it without a blink in the eye, you know? So, wow, Gail. The illusions of life.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So then you came out and picked up the engineering gig that you still weren't happy with.
Right.
And how did you, so I will couch this with, when I work with clients who want to become entrepreneurs, we figure out a formula for how much money you need to be making consistently each month before you give up your day job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That for the majority of the folks, because the fear of not paying the bills is too great. But that means a lot of work because it takes a lot of effort to create a business. And if you've got a day job and you're trying to create a business just on Saturday and Sunday, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. So tell me about how this happened for you.
So yes, I moved to San Diego. I was an engineer. I had personal training in the back of my mind. But honestly, as you alluded to, if I was going to do this personal training thing, I had to do it. I just had to let go of of being an engineer and be a personal trainer. That's just how I was. If I were to give words of wisdom to someone that's listening to this, I would say, don't do what I do. I literally did take the leap of faith. I jumped out there and I went full in with being a personal trainer, and financially it hurt very, very bad. And I can talk about that in a moment. But you know, if I were to give advice to the younger Scott out there, I would say plan. You know, look at your finances, save your money, make a budget, build up your company until you're making the money that makes sense to make that transition, right?
Right. But you do need to have that boundary or that goal, and not chicken out when you meet that goal.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So it's a lot of risk. Go ahead.
It's a lot of risk, Gail. And the biggest killer to all dreams is comfort zone. People get comfortable. They like their car, they like their house, they like their life, even though that's not what they want to do for a living.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not living their passion to whatever degree. They just feel comfortable. Life is comfortable and it kills them. It's the illusions of life. It's the money is only an illusion. The car is only an illusion. It's not necessarily happiness.
And that's so much easier said than done. I have actually someone I'm going to be interviewing, or we might be doing an Ask Me Anything, but it is about the fact that your worthiness is not tied to your achievements.
Oh, yes.
Right. Because if we didn't fail, that means we continue to live in our comfort zone and in a cloak of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just as an example, and then I want to get back to you. Had a conversation with my brother. Now I come from a family of fear. Believe me, I had a lot of work on Gail to do. And one of the things that I said to him, this is, a few years into my coaching, master's trained in NLP, I was pretty confident in my observations, and I was right. And I looked at him and said, you have so much fear around being poor that you let amazing opportunities just walk right by you. And you know it's walking by and you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you're right. He literally took out a loan on the house to invest in a business and then chickened out.
Mm. Okay.
Right? Yes. And so to them, I'm like the bravest thing since chocolate ice cream, because I'm like, yeah, what's going to happen? Right.
Yeah.
I've eaten hot dogs at Costco because that's all I could afford. Right. So here you are in San Diego and you jumped in. So you quit your
Yes.
day job.
I end up, well, ironically enough, the 2000 in the construction world, 2007, 2008, that's when we got hit by the economic downturn. And so whether I was ready for it or not, the company I was working for, they started their layoffs because money was getting a little tight.
Right.
And so there I go. Just like that. I was laid off. I was put out on my own, ready for it or not. And I did that. I had had a conversation with my dad. And I said, Dad, you and I have been talking about this personal training thing for a long time. Now's the time. And this is what happened. And here we go. And so I woke up the next day with 0 clients.
Tell us about your first client. I love the story about her. If you remember, she's the one who only wanted one type of exercise.
Yeah. I absolutely adore my clients, each and every one of them. They're so unique in their own way. But yeah, one of my initial clients, she hired me three times a week, 1 hour each session, and she only wanted to work one area. That was her glutes.
That's so she looked good in those jeans.
Boy, if you want to test a trainer's creativity, that's the way to do it. I don't want anything else. I want this for an hour, 3 times a week. Oh, you got it.
And not be boring.
You got it.
Right?
The same thing every time. But I loved it. It taught me. But boy, when it comes to working the glutes, I know some exercises, Gail.
I know. I know. So I want you to know that one of the things with Scott, we have so much in common. You know, yes, I met him at a BNI group, but then the next thing I know, I bumped into him at a motivational group with his then girlfriend, now married, but I think he was just dating Elle at the time. And it's all about caring about the person, right? Scott comes to his training with a huge heart. And I think you did two things for me. Why are you here? I was very clear as to why I was there. I wanted to be a motivational speaker and be on stage, and I didn't want to look like crap on stage. And the other thing was, my diet. I was on the wrong type of diet for my body type. Yeah. And I had to go back to eating meat, which it was a gradual thing for me to do, but it's what my body actually needed. It's kind of interesting because I now pay attention to my body. I have holistic nutritionists that I work with, but I will call and say, this is what happened and this is what I did. And it's because I listened to my body because of you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, right. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about some of the clients' experiences that you've had where you've helped people make that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say who clients are to me, I'll put it this way. When I work with someone, I get to see who they really are as a person because they get to see who I really am. I am very genuine. I'm very living a life with integrity. Running a company based around integrity is very important to me. And it took a lot of digging deep in the soul to become that person. But because I became that person, and it's a everyday event to be that person, when someone walks into the studio or when someone logs in on their online program, I get to see who they really are because they feel comfortable because they know who I really am. And I approach my business with passion. It all happens from the heart, Gail. I was willing to give up a 6-figure business as an engineer down to $0. I was eating oatmeal and drinking protein shakes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3 years.
And that woman still married you.
And I still eat oatmeal. Because it wasn't about the oatmeal, it was about the bigger picture. I had an opportunity to do what I loved, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make it work. Okay? Is there a better way of doing it? Absolutely.
I don't know because it's all about commitment, right? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes when people don't take the leap of faith.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had clients who won't take the leap of faith. They do the preparation. They have amazing ideas, and they get to the point with all of it, you have to leap because you have to make a change.
Right.
And they don't do it.
No.
Yeah.
And going back to your initial question, the reason why people have chosen me as their personal trainer, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, is because I asked that of them. I was like, there's going to be a financial commitment. There's going to be a time commitment. There's going to be a commitment on what you know as your way of living. I'm going to ask that of you. And if you're willing to make that commitment to me, you're going to get me to be committed to you. I can't be successful unless you're successful. My success comes from your success.
Right.
And so show to me that you're willing to make that commitment. And you know what? I haven't even begun to talk about my system, how I do it, because that's secondary to why I do it.
Well, that's just it, because I would never, I was dancing when I started with you, and dance was initially intended for exercise because I don't like gyms, right? And at the time that we were working out, you did not have your own gym yet.
Right.
And so we would show up at these gyms and I'd be like, oh, all these sweaty, disgusting people. Right? Everyone's showing off. It's like, and here, flabby me, right? Even though I danced, that's only exercise certain muscle groups,
sure.
Right? Not the whole body. And I was in pretty tough shape, I'll tell you. So yeah, you were so patient. So, and then you got your own place.
Yeah.
Right. And that's in Del Mar, which is not an inexpensive place to be.
Correct.
Either. Right. Right. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful little gym there. So
it does cost a little penny every month for sure.
So now you're going online, and tell me a little bit about Scott 2.0. Or maybe it's 3.0, because 1.0 was Scott the engineer, 2.0 is Scott the trainer, 3.0, where are you going? What's your dream?
Yeah.
What gets you going in the morning now?
My ultimate mission in life is to have people see their potential of becoming their ultimate, basically having someone see their ultimate self potential. People show up in life not knowing who they are, not knowing their true identity, because they've become so distracted with the world. It's about the car, it's about the house, it's about the kids, it's about what you do for a living, it's about let's go out to eat. So distracted in life. And all of a sudden, boom, you're 40, you're 50, you're 60 years old, and you're thinking, what do I want to be when I grow up? And so I use the tools of exercise, nutrition, mindset to really bring that opportunity, to bring an environment for someone to create who they really are.
Yes, you and I have done presentations together, right? And it works really, really well, because I am basically mindset. I had a friend, and I might have told you the story. So funny. I went to a reunion that was not mine, but was my friend's reunion. And one of her buddies, one of her girlfriends, she's like, yeah, I go to sleep at night. And before I go to sleep, I, put my knees up, put my elbow on my knees, and I read a book. And one night I'm reading the book and I look over at my arm, and she holds up her arm and she flaps. She goes, when did that happen? Right? She goes, I did not give it permission. When did that happen? And that's what happens, is that life kind of sneaks up on you, right? And that's when I saw you, when I was losing control of my physicality.
Yeah.
Right? And I couldn't stop gaining weight, and I couldn't build muscle. It was ridiculous. Yep. Ridiculous. So yes, I went on a 3-year hiatus from training, moved to New Hampshire. Took me a while to find a trainer that I like enough. Truly, I burned through a couple of them around here. But I found my home, and I take classes at her gym. And she said, so when you go on your road trip, which I will be doing soon, say hi to Scott and just show off how you look.
Yes.
Right. So Scott, your leap of faith, people don't understand how scary that was. Mm-hmm. Right. It really is mind-boggling that you would allow yourself to live on shakes and oatmeal for 3 years when you could have been, even though there was a layoff, there were still jobs you could have gotten. You could have been basking in the sun.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my story might be extreme, what I did. Out of Texas, moved to California, became from engineer into personal training in the matter of 24 hours. It's not the message that I want to bring to people necessarily. What I want people who are listening to this to understand is how important it is to acknowledge what you're passionate about and to take action on that, whatever that means. Does that mean quitting your job, or if that means making it a hobby? The world needs to hear from you what you're excited about.
Right. What your gift is.
Yes.
Right.
What your gift is.
Right.
Let that be. Let it be.
Yeah, exactly. I can't express how scary and fulfilling it is all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Right. I take scary steps every day. And, there are times I'll be like biting my nails. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. And that's the reason you have to do it. Yeah. Because I don't want to do it. Right. I think, 75 hard. Mm-hmm. And that's, 75 days, folks. Work out for 45 minutes indoors, work outside for 45 minutes, drink a gallon of water, be on a meal plan, take a selfie, read a book, there's just every day. Yeah. Understand, I did this starting the week of Thanksgiving. It went through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and ended right after Valentine's Day in New Hampshire, where it was snowy, sleety, below zero, wind factor 15 miles an hour, and I was out there.
Gail, you wouldn't have had it any other way.
Oh my gosh, no, I wouldn't, right? And I did it because I didn't want to do it, right? So I had a friend who was doing it. I'm like, heck no, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not going out. You know what? Winter's coming. And then I went, oh, Gail, that's not the right reason.
Get out there.
Yeah, you can do this.
Get out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I remember when you told me that you were starting that, and I had heard about it, but I didn't know too much about it. I Googled it and my eyebrow rose like, Gail can do this.
Yep. Yeah. Some folks went on to the next phase, which adds 3 more elements. One of them is a cold shower. And I couldn't, because it actually, I had some damage internally because of the food and the exercise that I ate too much. And I had to get my body back into balance. I really pushed myself too much, because you know that I do that.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, how can people get in touch with you, Scott, if they want to know more about your online training, more about your philosophy, more about what it's like to take a leap of faith and hold your nose and just dive in? How can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, you can always visit me on my website. It's koolbody.com. You spell cool, Kool, body.com. Ironically, that name Kool came from the number one reason why people want to exercise. It's how they look. So Kool is look spelled backwards. And so that's a nice, easy way to remember. So koolbody.com. Also, Gail, I'm going to give you a link, and that's going to lead people to a little video that describes how I do my business. It'll tell you a little bit about the online program and the private training program, and how I do it, why I do it, all that good stuff. So that'll be in a separate little video that maybe you can share in your show notes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. If this brought something up for you, by all means, you'd comment. Maybe I'll do an Ask Me Anything segment, or bring Scott back on. If you like this, let me know that you liked it. If you know someone who this might actually inspire, share it with them. It was a pleasure having you with us. Thank you again, Scott, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Gail.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailkraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.